now the elephants also, they have increased their home range. They have now been moved into the new area. They're exploring new areas. The elephants which were not there like in last 10 to 15 years, they have now reached up to the Goa. They went to the Maharashtra. They've gone up to the Chhattisgarh. They're now in the Andhra Pradesh. They are in the Madhya Pradesh. So of course, and the northeast India also, there there's a lot of problems. In West Bengal, the problem is more because of the lot of issues which I am going to discuss with you. The next slide, please. The next, yeah. In West Bengal, we have two disjunct population of the elephants. One is in North Bengal, which is around 550 elephants, which are moving some from one place to another place. They are going up to the Nepal. They are going up to Bhutan. Of course, they have the migration between the West Bengal and Assam. Now, this population over the year has increased. This population somewhere in 80s were, like 100 and odd elephants, which is now 550 elephants. Similarly, in the southwest Bengal, in the district of the Jhargram, Pashchim Medinipur, Purulia, and Bankura, these elephants are migratory elephants, around 150, which are coming from the Dalma. Now, the studies which have been, they are showing that there is a lot of disturbance in the adjoining Dalma sanctuary and near the Jamshedpur, which is near the Jamshedpur, and there's a lot of mining activity and the other activities which are creating a lot of problem for these elephants. And these small population, which is a migratory population, and now it has more or less become residential. They're spending more time in the West Bengal than in the Jharkhand or other places. Next slide, please. The problem comes, this is the Mayur Jharna Elephant Reserve, which is around 414 square kilometer of area, covering all the three districts. But you can see, that there are fragmented forests which are there. There is only one compact forest area, which is the 414 square kilometer, which has been declared as the Mayur Jharna Elephant Reserve. These fragmented forests, when the elephant moves from one place to another place, naturally they are compelled to move from the forest to the agriculture fields and the human habitation. The earlier the elephant, before the 90s, the elephant never used to cross this the river which you see, the Kangshavati river. Now gradually the elephants have increased their home range and they are going up to the Durgapur and Bankura Durgapur. So once they reach the Durgapur and Bardhaman, that is creating another problem for us. Next slide, please. Now, as we have talked that this is a very highly fragmented habitat, and more or less the population which is moving is creating a lot of problem. The another thing is this type of forest is a very sal coppice forest, and which was during after the independence and around 60s they were degraded. Again in the 90s, the forest department started the rejuvenation of this forest and planting the other species, also including some exotic species which are fast growing. That is another problem which has created. Now, if you see the elephant population, as I discussed, over the years, last 20 years, they have increased from 55 to 150. There are also the locals or residential elephants which are more than 25. And their time of stay in West Bengal has increased. And they are gradually expanding. There is expansion of home range. They are exploring new areas. The other thing which I want to put forward here is that the migratory route, there is a migratory route from West Bengal to the Odisha. This migratory route has been more or less stopped because of the Suvarnrekha Canal, which has been constructed on the border of by the Odisha on the border of West Bengal. So that migration route has been cut off. There is another thing which is there. There is lot of this project on the Suvarnrekha in the Jharkhand also. This Jharkhand project in Suvarnrekha in future is going to give a lot of problems, not only for Jharkhand, also for the West Bengal. So this is the overall scenario. There's sometimes the elephants they have went up to the Bangladesh. We went there, we captured it, brought it back. So these are the kind of the problem that we are facing. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, you can see, the elephant crossing the roads and the, lot of people, chasing it. There's elephant moving in the agriculture field and, coming damaging the crop. Next, please. Next slide, please. Whether I'm audible? Yes. Now you can see the elephants which are there in the crop field. You can see the people all around. This is another problem to the crowd management or the crowd. And we are now, this is because of the joint forest management, we have been able to, control. But during the daylight, that becomes a bit challenging. Next, please. If you see the kind of an extent of depredation, it is very high. This 150 population of, out of the 30,000 population of the elephant in the country, they are killing around 700 persons in the last 2 decades. And more or less, around 50% are killed in a year. And that has escalated, the amount of, this is being escalated every year, particularly in South Bengal. I'll be talking to you about North Bengal also. Now, the conflict is basically related to the fragmentation. It is more around the intensive agriculture areas and the corridors. What has happened is also there is a network of irrigation canals in West Bengal, and the agriculture production is quite high in these areas. And that is why these elephants are attracted towards the more nutritious crop in this area. The another thing is that the regarding the death of the human, the loners, whatever we have seen is the loners are the more responsible for the human death than the herd. And looking into the crop damage, this crop damage is quite high. It is 2,500 to 3,000 hectares, which is mainly by the herd. The houses damage is around 1,200, which is annually, which is also quite high. And the compensation which the state government pays to these victims, it has increased from 4 lakhs in 1990 to more than 5.5 crores in 1819, which is only in South Bengal. If you take it the consideration in North Bengal, the compensation is going to more than 10 crores. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is the map of the North Bengal. The green areas are basically the forest areas. The yellow areas are also the tea garden and the human habitation. There are more than 125 tea gardens which are there surrounding the forest areas. And these tea gardens also form the kind of the elephant corridors. And that is where the problem is. It is also in the human habitation, agriculture field, and in the tea gardens. Next, please. So the kind of there are some only the chunk of the forest in Baksa Tiger Reserve adjacent to the Jaldapara National Park is the compact forest, Rest is the fragmented forest, and naturally, the elephant has to pass through the tea gardens, mostly through the tea gardens, then the villages, towns, and agriculture field. And this is the area where the human density is more. It is more than 800 people, which are there per square kilometer area. And naturally, the damage is quite very high. And we have seen that the crop rating during this season, is a paddy and maize season, is very very high. Of course, there is a the depredation during the dry period also, but it's a different kind of a depredation where the houses are damaged, or sometimes they go for the local liquor. For that is also a very kind of an interesting thing that they break the house and go there. These tea gardens. Tea gardens are also, they have also done a lot of developmental activities. Their labor colonies have also increased, and the alignment of their labor colonies and the tea gardens are in the elephant corridor, which is giving the a lot of depredation. And talking to you about the crop damage, again, it is around 2,500 hectares of the crop which is damaged in North Bengal. More than 100 and 1,500 houses are damaged annually, and around 40% are killed on an average. Now, this in North Bengal, the death has come down, and in South Bengal, the death has gone up. So, this is the one thing which is there. The next, please. Next slide, please. Please. Now, what we are following is the short-term strategy and the long-term strategy. Now, this is the establishment of the elephant depredation squads, which we have made it in North Bengal and South Bengal. And mainly these elephant depredation squads are very well equipped. We have recently also last 2 years, 3 years, we have introduced the vehicles which are very much equipped. We call it as Arawat. These are equipped with the tranquilization gun. These are equipped with the drones. These are equipped with the well-trained staff and all other things which are required, for the, to control the depredation. So these are basically North Bengal. We have more than 9 such squads in different areas. In South Bengal, we have got 3 such squads. We are planning to do it more, and gradually we are bringing that Arawat, to all these areas. There is another in South Bengal, the practice which is being done traditionally by these tribals and other people, which is called as the hulla. This is nothing but this is a kind of a fireball which is being used by these tribal people to drive the elephants. Now, sometimes the forest department also uses the hulla parties in South Bengal to drive the elephants from the human habitation and agriculture field towards the forest areas, and we have been quite successful. There are few very specialized, such kind of teams which do all these kind of jobs. Even we have sent some teams to the Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh also to train the other people in that states. Of course, there are watchtowers at very strategic locations to see the movement of the elephants, then guard the elephant this agriculture crop, and these are being done. It's been preferred by the people, and the people have and also the forest department. Next, please. Yeah, this is the thing that we are practicing and we are promoting, because this is the we do not want elephants to go everywhere, because they are there is expansion of the home range and they are exploring new areas. So what we are trying to do is use the multiple barriers of energized power fencing, EPT, and vegetative fencing, this fencing at the strategic location, and to protect the crop. around the villages. This is being done, basically in tandem. It is not like you don't do the energized fence only in isolation or the EPT in isolation. So wherever you do the energized fencing, we also follow the EPT and the also vegetative fencing. We are also thinking on the lines of the Karnataka, where there has been some successful experiments of creating the this fencing of the rail. So that is the also we have not done it, but now we are thinking on those lines also in certain locations wherever this is required. And this is being done not everywhere. We are not blocking the movement of the elephants, but we are not allowing the elephants to go in the areas where we do not want. Like in Bankura district, we did this kind of an experiment, and we were where the depredation was very high because it reached up to the Damodar River near the Durgapur town, and we were able to stop the movement of the elephants into the Bankura district. So that was the one thing, and we are practicing it. Next, please. This is another thing that we are using is the use of our own the elephants, which we call it the Kunki elephant squads for chase without capture, because these are the trained elephants which go into the herd. They go into the herd and they drive the herd from to a particular direction towards the forest areas. So this is the quite prevalent practice in North Bengal. We have used it in South Bengal also, and we have stationed some elephants in South Bengal to use it for this purpose. Next, please. There's a also we have done in past is the capture of the problem elephants. These problem elephants which were captured and were also translocated to North Bengal. Some of the problem elephants which were captured was also they were translocated to the forest of the North Bengal. And that will also help in one way is the genetic breeding of the population. The second thing is that we want to capture more such kind of an elephant. In the past, some elephants were captured and were trained. Uh, but it's not like the Karnataka or the Tamil Nadu, which is we are not very much expert in that kind of a training. But we used some of the experts from the Assam and also from the Tamil Nadu to help us in this kind of a thing for training of the elephants. Next, please. Yeah, that is the kind of a practice. Also, it is being done in many other states. We are also doing it. This is the elimination of the confirmed rogue. We take all kind of an parameter, identify the kind of the rogue which is killing the people again and again, and these by the order of the chief wildlife warden and with the order of the government, they are being eliminated. Such cases have happened, but in recent past we have not done it. Next, this is of course now the all the states are doing is the timely payment of ex gratia to the victim in cases of the death. We pay it very immediately. Now, recently, the Honorable Chief Minister has also announced yesterday that the one of the kin of the victim who has died in by the elephants, they will be offered job in the as a home guard. So this is a kind of a new addition which has happened. Of course, we are paying more than 10 crore rupees annually for the as a compensation. That helps. The another that system that we have developed is a quite an established system is advanced warning system, which is the kind of a bulk SMS ban, which is it is being sent to the forest management committee, the JFMC's leaders, the panchayat members, the police, they are being informed about the movement of the elephant every day, in the morning and the evening also. So these are, it is being practiced so that they know where is the location of the elephant, and what is the staff also get very alerted, the people also get alerted, and accordingly we try to reduce the kind of interpretation. The kind of an we experiment that we did is the e-surveillance experiments in South Bengal. Of course, this is not a very kind of an successful, but in future with some kind of a modification in the e-surveillance kind of a thing, where there are some equipment which are placed in the forest areas, and if the elephant passes from there, the automatically some kind of an the SMS or the information is passed on to the local people. So this is what the kind of an advanced warning system that we are following. Next, please. In the long-term strategy, of course, we most of the states which are following is the management and the strategic action plan. We have this management plan for the Mayur Jharna Elephant Reserve and also the Eastern Dwar Elephant Reserves. But now again, we are in the changing scenario where the movement of the elephants are also changing. In the changing scenario, we are going for the revision of this management plan. We have also the strategic action plan, which takes care of the zone of influence. Out of the elephant reserves, there are more damages also which has been reported, and so we are coming up. We have in place the strategic action plan, so that accordingly we take the actions. There is another focus which we are doing is the habitat improvement within the elephant reserves and also within the certain forest areas, so that will help with reducing the depredation. Of course, the development of water bodies, which is very much required um, and is useful. The the very important thing that we are doing in South Bengal is because, as I told you, that we have planted eucalyptus and akashmani after there was degradation of the forest areas. Now, what we are trying to do is the conversion of these monocultures into the sal forest. So every year, more than 500 hectares of these monocultures are felled and is converted to the sal forest. So that is why that is how we are going. We are increasing the elephant habitat in this South Bengal. Of course, the fodder base by the plant. There are a lot of studies by the botanical research organization that is what and doing it that is adding there is a lot of things people or the common people that there is no fodder in all the time and we are also doing the eco development and awareness campaign. You are very much aware that the West Bengal is the pioneer state in the joint forest management, and we are taking help of this. We have got more than 3,500 forest protection committees or JFMCs that we have. And in the areas where the depredation is more, we are in touch with these agencies. They help us, and otherwise it will be very difficult to manage the problem. Of course, the awareness campaign in the schools, in the villages, is the part of it. Capacity building, we are building our own team We are, giving training to the staff for tranquilization. Bengal is one of the state which has got a very good team. For the last, 15 years, we have tranquilized more than 100 elephants, and that is quite commendable and very successfully we have done it to reduce the problem. We have also developed the standard operating procedures for when the elephants or the animals which are coming out of the forest areas in the stray, and that is the kind of the directions that we give to this. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, these are the some the conversion of the forest areas, uh, and again the same kind of a thing which we have talked about the joint forest management, and we take into confidence the JFMCs during the driving operations. We alert them before their area. They are very well organized, and that is helping us. I stop it here. I thank you very much. This is the kind of experience that we are having it from the West Bengal. And I thank you all. I thank MOEF for giving the opportunity to talk to you all. If there is any
Thank you,
question,
sir.
if there is
Yeah.
any question, then I can.
Thank you, sir, for giving such a comprehensive and holistic view of human-elephant conflict in the state of West Bengal and highlighting both the short-term and long-term measures to combat the conflict situation in the state. So there is one question that we would like to propose here. So in West Bengal, you also have the tea gardens where there is human-elephant conflict with the estate managers as well as with the laborers there. Could you highlight on how West Bengal Forest Department deals with the issue?
There are two, three issues that we were successful with them, but of late they are not doing it. Try to develop the voluntary squads in the tea gardens, because the tea gardens have the laborers, tea gardens have the vehicles, tea garden have the tractors and the searchlights and everything. So we trained them. We formed the voluntary squads in the tea garden. This is one. Then we encourage the tea gardens to at least power fence their labor lines. This is another the issue. Some of the tea gardens where they did it, they were benefited, and rest they are trying to follow it. But now the industry is going very down, so the maintenance is another one of the problem which is being faced there. The second thing that we try to them, because most of the tea gardens they are the tribal populations, they also store this local liquor which is called as hadia, which is also prevalent in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand and other places, which attract the elephants. So that we have uh, told them not to do it. Of course they that is their practice. That is what they do. Third thing that we have told them to at least use the street lights. Street lights in the labor lines will discourage the elephants coming to that labor lines. Number one. Number two, at least the laborers they can see the elephants approaching nearby. So that is also some of the tea gardens that they have done it. Third thing that we told them not to use the white colors in the labor colonies. So that some of the tea gardens they have followed. We have got the whole kind of an advisory which is given to the tea gardens. Thank you very much. Anything else, please?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Secretary to me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next presentation. Human, Mr. Sanjay Pathak, whose first love is cats. He has worked extensively with flying colors in the National Tiger Conservation Authority and now has moved to the lands of Dudhwa, teeming with wildcats. Human-leopard conflict is, however, a very challenging task, and he has dealt with both he's dealing with the death of human beings as well as the death of leopards which have been killed in retaliation. So I would request Mr. Sanjay Patel, the Field Director of Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, to present on the human leopard conflict or human large carnivore conflict in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Sir, please, Mr. Sanjay Patel.
Thank you, Pradya, for me. Good morning, everyone. And first of all, I am thankful to the ministry for bestowing me with this opportunity to interact with you people on the subject of large carnivores conflict and mitigation strategies, and that too with respect to the Uttar Pradesh Tarai. As you are aware, India is a vast country, and so is the state of UP in in our country. Every sixth Indian is from the state of UP, so you can appreciate the kind of pressure we are having on our forests. Next slide, please, Pradya. Like every other PAs in our country, which are like islands in the ocean of human habitations, UP, the status of PA is also similar to that only. They are not the exceptions. And you can see the blue dots everywhere interspersed in the entire landscape, and you can appreciate what kind of batic pressure these PAs are facing day to day. So PAs, as it is already visible, Pilibhit Tiger Reserve and Kishanpur Wildlife Sanctuary, Dudhwa National Park is this past part of Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, whereas Pilibhit Tiger Reserve is a separate entity. Next. Leopards are two main carnivores which are reported to have high interface in the marine landscape. And you would see that leopards, they are the people, but mostly that results into injuries by tiger attacks to those mostly, and because human death. Even yesterday, the two deaths were reported from the two different parts of the of our state. One in Pilibhit Tiger Reserve and another in buffer area of Dudhwa Tiger Reserve. That happened yesterday. And apart from these two carnivores, crocodiles also cause significant interactions, as you can make out from the graph given here. Elephant death because of elephant or injury because of elephant is almost near to that of crocodile, whereas because of leopard and tiger it is very high as compared to them. Next slide, please. From this very graph you can make out the maximum incidences are happening in the farmlands in the vicinity of forest. They are the most vulnerable places where there are cases of negative interaction between humans and tigers and leopards. You can see one tiger is roaming around that sugarcane field. So that this problem is very prevalent in our area. And apart from farmland, there are incidences happening in the forest also. Next slide, please. If you see the kind of batic pressure in the area and the prevalence of incidences, then you will find from this very graph that number of incidences are more within the 2 kilometers distance of forest, whereas it decreases if you go beyond 2 kilometers, but maximum concentration is within the 2 kilometers. So if people avoid the vicinity of forest, going in vicinity of forest, the cases can be minimized. So that is evident from this the data of tiger death due to tiger has plotted in these very graphs. You can see the these bar charts from 2009 to 2020, you'll find that maximum deaths have occurred in 2017, and the victim is mostly a male guy. As compared to females, the death caused to the females is far lesser than the males. So that shows that males are more active in the forest area. So because of this thing, it is happening with them. And if you see the month-wise analysis, you will find that March and June are the ones when maximum negative incidences have been observed. Next slide, please. This is a map showing probability of human-tiger negative interface in Dulva Pilivit landscape. And from this map, it can be made out very easily that forest areas are the most vulnerable. The probability analysis has been done using a resource selection function, and that is based on a preliminary study done by the WWF India. So in this very graph, they have identified the conflict location, and using those random points generated in GIS domain, they have compared it with the covariates of conflict area, and these covariates include the nightlight data, drainage, human settlements, cropland, disturbance to forests, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now coming to the extent of human carnivore negative interface. So these are the two maps made in the GIS domain. So you can see that Pilivit Tiger Reserve and South Kiri Forest Division, which is not a part of any tiger reserve, they are the most affected areas in terms of human-tiger negative interface related incidences. And after that, the area falling under buffer of Dudhwa, that is also vulnerable, that also witnesses such incidences. Whereas in the areas of Dudhwa National Park, the conflict is quite controlled. There is hardly any case reported, because of which death or serious injury hasn't caused to anybody. So the above one is showing this related incidences in the tiger related conflict situations in the very landscape, whereas in the map below, the blue dots, the blue area, that depicts the human leopard negative interface related incidences area. So that if you see the complete Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, Katanya Ghat Wildlife Sanctuary is affected one, where you would find maximum incidences related to leopard. Next one. Now coming to the mitigation strategies. So in the entire state, we have been following very religiously the NTCA SOPs. So we try to adhere to the NTCA SOPs. Various SOPs are there, as you all are aware, and there is a SOP regarding straying of animals in human habitated area. So the entire procedure has been laid down in that SOP. So that is followed in true spirit. And apart from that, there are capture operations done. We try to drive back the straying animals most of the time. And besides that, several education and awareness programs are being organized in the entire year. And when somebody gets injured, the victim forest department fosters their treatment. They are taken to the nearest hospital, and if required, to specialty hospitals also, trauma center, etc. The department helps those victims. And if some casualty happens, in that case, like any other state, compensation, I will say it is ex gratia payment for human life or injury, it is given. And besides that, there is community stewardship also. We have restarted our eco development activities in a full blast way. And apart from that, infrastructural support like lighting and toilets, they are also supported by some of the NGOs working in our landscape. And apart from that, we try to dovetail with the other departments of the government. They are also, we try to assist the people living in the vicinity of forests. Next slide, please. There are capture and rescue operations also. So monitoring of problematic animals is being done whenever we get a news. There is one tigress which has gone up to Bareilly. So our team in the Bareilly division, that is the social forestry division, but even then they are monitoring the animal every day and sending data to us. So that is there, and some successful captures has been done, and the tiger has been, unfortunately, they cannot be reinstated in the wild. Most of them were to land in the zoos, unfortunately. Next part. Next. This is the uh, figure regarding rescued animals, which has been rescued in the period 2016 to 20. So you can make out from this figure that around 10 tigers have been rescued in the last 5 years. One hyena and one sloth bear has also been rescued, and the rescue of leopard is maximum. So that you can make out from the Katania Ghat landscape. Katania Ghat itself, 18 leopards were rescued. So the leopard human problem is quite high as compared to that of tiger. And besides leopard, crocodile also causes significant significant conflict with the people. So you can make out from the last 4 years, crocodiles 31 crocodiles have been rescued from human habitations, and one crocodile last year have been rescued from the police station. So that can be made out, and that can be made out how these animals are in conflict, human habitation, human population. Next one, please. Under the education and awareness program, we observe and leopard safety month in the winter season, and that happens in the entire state, whereas the concentration is very high. The awareness is done in a full vigor in particularly the protected areas. So in which we distribute the pamphlets, etc. We interact with the people one-to-one basis. We do meetings with the villagers. So apart from that, several other measures are also being taken, road shows, etc. also is being done. So that is there. Next one. Next life and injury is also given, and in that we are being assisted by the WWF India also, which gives immediate relief amount of rupees 10,000 to the victims. But with pride, I would like to mention that UP is the pioneer state which has declared human wildlife conflict a disaster through a government order. So, and now the people, earlier they were the time taken to give them the ex gratia amount, it used to vary between 2 3 months to even a year, but now the ex gratia is being made within the span of 2 to 3 days, and now the revenue department has been involved, and that amount has to be paid from the state disaster relief fund. So now the state of UP is providing 5 lakhs rupees to the victim's family if somebody dies. In that case, it is being done. So from the slide, you can see that in the last 5 years, more than 1 crore has been given to the families of victims in Pilibhit Tiger Reserve itself. In Dudhwa also, we gave around 50 lakhs per year, but most of the chunk is that of crop depredation, whereas in the Katania Ghat, around 5 6 deaths take place every year, whereas in the buffer, the death varies between 2 3 per year, whereas in Dudhwa National Park area, it is almost zero. Next slide, please. Some capacity building of our frontline staff is being done on regular basis, and you can see the number of trainings which has been conducted in the past few years. Even state level workshops. Next one, please. The higher ups in our hierarchy, and apart from the minister and chief minister, they also take very keen interest in such matters. and state level workshop has also been organized, and the honorable minister also takes monitoring meetings concerning with the problem of human wildlife negative interaction related incidences. uh, Next please. Uh, this is a case from Pilibhit Tiger Reserve, and you can see the conflict areas on the map. And apart from that, the presence of tigers have been highlighted in different colors. So now we have come out with a Bagh Mitra program, and that is there in the Pilibhit and South Kiri Forest Division area, where the staff that Bagh Mitra is from the community. They are interacting with the people, and they are the link between the department and the people. Next slide please. uh, you can see in these very maps the presence of Bagh Mitras in the fringe area in the Pilibhit Tiger Reserve that can be made out, and similarly in the South Kiri Forest Division. So everywhere Bagh Mitras have been deployed, and the Global Tiger and WWF India, they are supporting us in those very activities. So next slide please. The functioning of Bagh Mitra, say in a Gram Sabha, there are villages, and in each village, one Bagh Mitra is there who is connected with the Master Bagh Mitra, who in turn is connected with the Forest Department and the NGO, and through them, the result, the monitoring and other action is being taken by the department. So, Master Bagh Mitra is connected with the Forest Department as well as the NGO, and the NGO and Master assist us in monitoring the action on state wildlife, state carnivores. We have tried to identify some high incidences area, the hot spots. So the human leopard negative interface, as I have already told you, that is maximum in Katania Ghat. So from the dots you can make it out, you can make out the red dots depict maximum incidences by the hot spot. The red hot spots are there, and apart from that there are green, there are other colors, yellow. So that depicts the status of the vulnerability of the area. Next slide, please. These are the things. There are 15 affected villages in which we have tried to. By WWF. For that, we did consultative meeting with the people. That one, and we did giant exercise with the villagers. This is this is a interesting thing. These are farmlands where you find the presence of tigers. So tiger UP is also known for its sugarcane tigers. So there is one place in the vicinity of Pilibhit Tiger Reserve where the tigers are found in 6-7 numbers, whereas in South Kiri Division also there are 7-8 tigers every time in the which who are roaming between the tiger reserve as well as the sugarcane area. So these are the two photographs. These are the two maps showing the presence of tigers in those two areas. Now the way forward, though we are doing these many things, but they need to be strengthened. So now we are feeling, what we are feeling is that is the use of doing radio cornering of some individuals to understand their movement patterns and their habitat use pattern, and to come out in a better scientific way, to do their management in a better scientific way. And apart from that, the improvement of habitat by proper grassland management, augmentation of water, besides irrigation, that is being done in the tiger reserves, but elsewhere it is required to be done. So other things which are the preventive measures, though we are doing these things, but that need to be strengthened, like the conflict mitigation cell is there at PCCF office headquarters, and we maintain the conflict data monitoring, etc., and accuracy of payment, etc., but that needs more strengthening. Similarly, the alternate energy resources, they are being given to the people, but they are also that need more facilitation, and same applies for the toilets, etc., house and cattle sheds, so that there is minimized conflict. Similarly, the Bagh Mitra program that need to be strengthened, and the rapid response teams, they need to be equipped with the trained veterinarians, forest rescue staff, rescue vehicles, etc., etc. And rapid response teams are functional in tiger reserves, but that can be found in other places also. I have listed out those names. And veterinarians are there in tiger reserves and in the zoos, but there are areas where we need veterinarians to be placed there on deputation or by different arrangements to address the conflict. And this another suggestion is mobile based app for monitoring. We do in a bit sometimes, but that need to be strengthened further. And these are the some other measures which we are taking, and we propose to take, like developing animal detection and alert system, e-surveillance system, etc., and active management of the animals. We are in conflict monitoring in tiger reserves, but that need to be done in areas other than tiger reserves also. And transport cases, sufficient number of traps, etc., are there, but to other conflict divisions, it has to be taken in a more better way. Coordination is always an issue. You cannot leave that, that mechanism is there. You have to pursue it throughout, whosoever is there in the at the help of affairs. And similarly, the village level volunteers, they need to be trained. Refresher course, etc., has to be done for them from time to time. And these are the rescue. I like to mention recently the government has approved establishment of 5 rescue center and rewilding center. So very soon we'll be having a rewilding center in the Pilibhit Tiger Reserve area as well as in Durba Tiger Reserve area. And apart from that, the government has approved this rescue center. So now the conflict animals, they will not land in zoos, rather than they will be landing in the rescue center. And if it is possible to rewild them, that would be done. And one more suggestion is there: more area has to be brought under the umbrella of Project Tiger. We have some potential areas like Ranipur Wildlife Sanctuary, which is connected to Panna Tiger Reserve Landscape. Similarly, Sohagi Berwa, that is connected with Valmiki Tiger Reserve Bihar, and Shivalik Forest Division, that is adjoining Rajaji Tiger Reserve. So these are the potential areas where the population, if it increases in such a manner, so those tigers and leopards can be translocated there. And before we translocate to those areas, we need to improve the habitat and prey base. We need to augment the prey base there. And next, kindly show it. Next. I forgot to say next. So Pragya, you also missed. So that's all from listening to me in such a way. And I'm again thankful to the ministry and the organizers, Pragya and Sonali and others. Thank you very much. If any questions are there, please welcome.
Thank you, sir, for presenting the human-carnivore conflict situation, where the State Forest Department of Uttar Pradesh is addressing the issue at the grassroots level by involving the people as one of their stakeholders. So my question to you would be, after involving the villagers at the grassroots level, when human-carnivore conflict is going on, what is their reaction when their cattle or their livestock or people are getting killed by the leopards or tigers in the area?
Generally, if you see the populace of UP, so people are maximum people are tolerant, but in some of stray incidences, we face a lot of protest from the people also. But in general, more I can say in 80% of occasions, people are with us and they appreciate that the conflict is because they are living in the area of wildlife. Wildlife has not come to their area, rather they are there. So if convinced in a better way, uh, they understand, they appreciate the thing, and that's why we do constant awareness exercise. We do constant interaction with the villagers. Barring some stray incidences like one happened in Tatanja Ghat in the month of April, where we lost two leopards in a single day, but more or less people are cooperative. So that I would say. Anything else? Anything else, Pragya?
JG office inspection வந்துருக்காங்க சார். சேஃப் HRD ரூம் ஒரு 1 மந்த்துக்கு ஆமாம் சார்.
ஓகே தேங்க்ஸ். சிசிசிஎம் எப்போ வருவாரு? சரி வந்து அவர் ரூம்ல போய் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிட்டு
நான் ரெடியாக இருக்கேன் சார். சார் வந்தோடனே சாருக்கு இன்டிமேஷன் ஓகே.
You're not audible.
Pragya, we can't hear you
Am
if
I
you're speaking.
audible?
Yes, now.
Okay. India has a strong legal policy framework to regulate and restrict wildlife trade. Wildlife Crime Control Bureau has been established by the Government of India to combat organized wildlife crime in the country. Ms. Tilotama Verma, a dynamic RPS officer with her grit, determination and dedication, runs the bureau, which has garnered not only national but global appreciation for its operations to combat illegal wildlife trade. So moving on, I request Ms. Tilotama Verma, the Additional Director of Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, to present on the wildlife crime, national and transnational scenario and the role of enforcement agencies. Madam, over to you.
Thank you, Pragya. I'll be sharing my presentation from here.
Yes, madam, please.
Very good afternoon to everybody. I would like to thank the earlier two speakers. They were very educative and got to learn a lot from them. Let me wish all the audience my very good wishes during the time of Corona. I hope you're all keeping safe and all keeping fine. The word Corona also probably draws our attention to wildlife. And maybe that is certainly an area of concern today for all of us. A recent report of May 2019 by UN, where about 150 experts got together, they mentioned that likely in the near future, that is a few decades, maybe 30 years or 40 years, we are about to lose 1 million species of flora and fauna out of roughly 8 million species that inhabits this earth. So that is certainly an area probably today of concern for each individual to say that are we existing correctly? Is the bioexistence, is our existence with the wildlife somewhere flawed or not? Corona today we see is maybe one of the reasons that we see how we are living with our wildlife. Maybe the future pandemics, the future diseases, the future endemics that may happen, epidemics that may happen, maybe a tolling bell today for us to understand the wildlife around us and how that we need to exist and coexist. The report also mentions that among the mammal species that exist in the wild today, 4% of it is only in the wild. The rest of the 96% are us human beings. So that again is another tolling bell for us. It also says further that among, if we look at the bird species, about 70% of it is what is the birds that we eat, maybe our fowls, our peahens, but the rest of it, that is roughly about 70%, 30% of it, is what is there in the wild. So coming from this, probably we need to understand that somehow or the other something drastically wrong is happening to the wildlife. And here we see that today, poaching, when we alone see, we see that it is to the tune of 20 billion, rather it is now what the recent figures show, it is about $25 billion of illegal trade that happens regarding wildlife. And they say roughly about another same 20 to $25 billion as per as records, that is the illegal timber trade that is happening around us. And one of the major causes for this depletion of wildlife, they say, is poaching. So coming to this, I'd like to share my presentation to you, because today we very clearly see that as far as wildlife crime goes, it is transnational in nature. What do we mean by transnational? Like if you're looking at the arms trade, if you're looking at the drugs trade, we are looking at human trafficking, then fourth in the series of this is the wildlife illegal trade that is happening and crossing not only within our boundaries but the transnational boundaries. Demands are coming in from countries across, whether it is Southeast Asia, Europe and America. But recent trends also show that a lot of domestic wildlife is being consumed in the form of pet trade or for consumption within the country, be it mongoose, be it porcupine, be it turtles and tortoises. So what is this transnational organized crime that we are talking about? It is interstate, it has international ramification, and it has intercontinental ramification. And one of the important driving features behind this is that it is profit motivated. It is demand driven, profit motivated. Giving you an example, in the last London conference on wildlife, it was mentioned that a single rhino horn in the international market costs roughly about $50,000. So you can see the magnitude, the immense profit that is there. No wonder all the smugglers of the world, somewhere or the other, tend to see that they can poach either rhino or a tiger skin or maybe an elephant horn. Next is that the risk is low and the profits are very high. Most of the countries across the world, we see the punishment is very, very small, in spite of the fact that in India, we are very fortunate that we have the Wildlife Protection Act, where we have put the legal system ensures that we have 3 to 7 years of punishment. But at the same time, there's a lot that is still need to be done as the investigative stage and also at the prosecution stage to ensure this. The next point is that wildlife trafficking involves criminals of different profiles. What do we mean by this? We have the poor poachers who reside in and around the forest area on one hand. We have the middlemen who run throughout the length and breadth of the country. And finally, we have smugglers who are laundering money at a huge scale. We also see environment and wildlife crime and its illegal trade can merge with other crimes. How are we seeing this at the international level? At the smugglers level, we see that the same smuggler will be poaching, he will be indulging in wildlife crime, he will be indulging in narcotics crime, and he will also be indulging in arms trade. So at that level, at the international level, at the transboundary level, and also within the country, we will see at some level there will be the merging of this crime that further enhances or aggravates this crime. Criminals have the ability to adapt and converge. Today we see that sometimes they are ahead of us. We often see when we are trying to bust gangs that they keep a multitudes of mobiles. They have innumerable code words. They keep on changing their code words. And today we do not only see that online trade is really hitting the market, but we also see that they are somehow making use of the dark net and the dark web also. So probably our technical skills, our awareness of the cybercrime also needs to be looked at. The ability to stay ahead of combat strategies. Often we see that they are well grounded in the art of poaching, middlemen, and smuggling, and their combat strategies are always being renewed. Poachers we often see are mainly local people using traditional methods of poaching, but the high demand induces sophisticated weapons and means of communication. My slides ahead will further supplement what I have mentioned here. So we can see here that basically being a federal structure, it is very clear from here that the enforcers of the Wildlife Protection Act, which is enacted by the center, it is the state governments, whether it is a police force under it or whether it is the forest force under it. But there are secondary agencies that need to supplement the effort. They could be the paramilitary forces on our border guarding. They could be our coast guard who are guarding our waterways. They could be our airways, the civil aviation. They could be our railway networks. Because when the poacher moves, poachers move right out from the forest area. He uses all the modes possible for him, either to reach a destination at the airport or to reach a destination at the railway station, or he may use our porous borders on the north to Bhutan, to Bangladesh, to Myanmar, to Nepal, and maybe if we are looking at the coastal areas, they have all the seas around us to take the material, whether it is to the Southeast Asian or Europe or far beyond. So it is very, very important if we need to look at wildlife crime, that how do we integrate the action of all the enforcement agencies so that we become a combined force to fight this wildlife crime. First, I've just touched upon a few species so that we have an idea of it. Tiger body parts, from this we can very well see that while it is getting poached across the country, it is mainly finding its ways from the northeast border into the Southeast Asian countries and China beyond. One of the cases I'd like to highlight here was the Valmiki Tiger Reserve case. Here we learned a new modus operandi. In period of 3 months, 3 tigers were poached. And all the 3 tigers were poached by injecting this furadon poison into the tiger kill. So the idea was that this whole gang of poachers were living and residing around the Valmiki Tiger Reserve. They would send people out into the forest area. The only job of that part of the smuggling gang was to find a tiger kill. So once they found that the kill, whether it is a deer or any other animal was killed, then they would come and tell the expert whose only work was to go and inject this furadon into the tiger kill, that is maybe into the deer. The tiger invariably comes to eat the kill a second time. So all the 3 tigers were killed in the similar manner. The furadon was injected, the tiger was killed, then skilled workers went in, they took off the skin of the tiger, the upper skin of the tiger, then they dried the bones in the forest area. The meat was dug into the ground out there, and that is how the modus operandi happened. After WCCB enacted and busted this gang, it was with the forest and the police departments of Orissa. It was finally revealed that this huge gang of poachers had poached these 3 tigers, and by the time we were able to reach them from Bihar, the transaction had reached Maharajganj in Uttar Pradesh. The STF further assisted us there, and finally, while 2 of the tiger skins were seized in Bihar, around the VTR area, one of the tiger skins after Maharajganj had already crossed over our boundaries to reach Nepal. Then, along with the government of Nepal, their enforcement agencies, within 48 hours, we were able to bust this racket and also seize further bones and tiger skin in our bordering region of Nepal. At that point, it was further revealed that some of the portion had already reached Kathmandu, and investigation through Interpol is going on as to see which are the other countries it has further gone on to. So this case is a very good example to show us that how many agencies would get involved in it, how many networks would get engaged in it, how many poachers, middlemen, smugglers, and transnational transnational smugglers from across the countries are involved in this. Second example I'm trying to show you is of a rhino. Here we see that today we have poachers. Initially it was like .303 rifle, but today we see AK series of rifles being used to poach a rhino. And it is very interesting to see that the Kaziranga tigers getting poached. The experts or the shooters, the sharpshooters, are, as per our investigation, interrogation, and also when we are catching these culprits, are coming in from Nagaland and Manipur. So the sharpshooters are coming in from Nagaland and Manipur. They come all the way in and around the Kaziranga. There you have people who are able to harbor them. They are criminals who are harboring them. Then they find out where is the nearest rhino that can be poached. This person's only job is to go and shoot the rhino. Then you have an expert who comes and takes off the saw. Then again you have poachers, middlemen, and people who finally take out this rhino horn from across our country into further Southeast Asia and China. In one of the cases here, we wanted to show you the convergence of crime. How is the convergence of crime happening? In Assam, in one of the vehicles, it was found that the same criminal was carrying arms, the same criminal had a rhino horn, and the same criminal was also carrying narcotics. So it again becomes important for us to know that we cannot work in isolation. We have to work with people or departments. For example, the Narcotics Control Bureau. We will have to work with the state agencies who are looking at the firearms. If maybe insurgents are caught, then probably certain weapons that they may be using also for killing of rhino or other such species. So inter-coordination of departments both within the country and outside the country is very important if we wish to bust these smugglers within the country and outside the country. Coming to another example, Shetush. This is a Tibetan antelope found either in the Ladakh region or it is found in the Tibetan highlands. The Shetush, this Tibetan antelope, is hunted down. Its soft fur, both from this antelope and the little baby which resides in its tummy, it is killed, taken out, and then it travels all the way through our borders into India and finds its way into Kashmir, where it is turned into shawls. Once again it is turned into shawls, it finds its way again back to the airports of India. We have had huge seizures at Indira Gandhi International Airport, and these are further going on either to the Southeast Asian country, Hong Kong, or to the European markets or the American markets. So you can imagine the magnitude of the people who are involved in it. So the enforcement agencies need to pool in their efforts. We need to have data banks. We need to have ways of disseminating information and intelligence at very, very quick speeds. So here you can see the linkages that I'm trying to show to you. So this is coming in, Shetush that we see is coming in from China to Nepal, from Nepal to India. It comes into India, is made into shawls, then transported from Kashmir to Delhi, then finally from our terminals disposed into European nations, Middle East and East Asia. Some of the clippings clearly show 2 Chinese women arrested for smuggling. Similarly, you see again here that Indian smuggling Shetush shawls caught in Switzerland. This is another modus operandi of pangolin. This again is finding its way a huge market in the Southeast Asian countries, China, and you can see the modus operandi. This poor species is literally put into boiling water and finally its scales taken out. This is photographs of soups being served in Vietnam, of being turned into medicines, as well as also you can see the jackets that are being turned into jackets. This species, this is one of the rackets that was busted. You can see 116 persons arrested across 10 states. You can see here the various states. Linkages were found to 3 countries, and the same very operation, interstate, international, led us also to connections between the narcotics syndicate. So here again, we can see this transnational organized crime is of a very, very high level. Therefore, we also need to have similar bodies which help bust these rackets. Turtle and tortoise is another area. We have not, I will not undermine when I'm saying that it is in the tune of lakhs and lakhs of turtles and tortoises that are leaving our shores for foreign destinations, both to the Southeast Asian, through our airways, through our railway lines, through our porous borders, through our seaways. Unfortunately, we also have consumption patterns within the country where it is being used for meat. And also you can see the star tortoise that I'm showing here. This is also being now kept as pets within the trade. So it was enough that it was traded outside the country, but now we see markets within the country. One of the routes and linkages found in trade turtle and tortoises, just for the information of those who are hearing me, you can see that this was a smuggling racket which was busted, which started from Uttar Pradesh, Chennai, Mumbai, Karnataka. These were linkages of various turtle poachers and seizures that were made. Then finally, they were going through West Bengal, through Chennai, and through Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, Bangkok to Chennai. Similarly, there's another route through Bangladesh also finding similar ways. So we can see in a single racket, 6 states, 4 destinations, 35 suppliers, and 70 people who were contract based. So this is a single operation. So you can imagine the volumes that this is going out from our shores. So each of the places where these are being found are very, very vulnerable. That is why it is important for our people to know where are these species being found and how are we going to protect them at the very root of our supply chains. This is again something which was coming in from Madagascar. These are turtles coming in from Madagascar. They were found at or seized at Mumbai. They were on their way journey to Nepal and of course out. So it is not only our turtles and tortoises which are going. You can also see that we are also a route for other countries, for us, that they can go to further destinations outside our country. See the various turtle smuggling detected in various airports of India. So we are not talking only of the inland, but you can see the various airports that are used for flying out these turtle and tortoises out of the country. Every airport is vulnerable. The newer airport, the easier it is for the poacher to reach. So you can today talk of Gaya airport, you can talk of Lucknow airport, you can talk of all the smaller airports. You will certainly have seizures of such species going out. Online cases are another that I would like to get the audience to know that today online, the various portals, you can go to any of the portals, Amazon, eBay, Quicker, and you will find that somewhere or the other wildlife is part or a live species getting posted, and that is where probably our attention or the enforcement agencies need to be drawn so that we also can help bring some sort of stoppage to this sort of crime that is happening through these online seizures. So today, what do we have in place? In the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, we are trying to compile all the data of the crime and criminals of the country so that we can analyze them and throw up solutions for the state, preventive measures that can happen, advisories that can happen, both within the country as well as in the form of purple notices to the international arena to know that, okay, this is the crime, this is the modus operandi, and this is as nations how we can get together to work to stop these crimes. So today we have a profile of leopards, turtles, rhino poachers, pangolin poachers, tiger poachers, and of course a criminal profile of roughly less than 3,000 in our data bank. We also conceive operations in a year, depending upon the sort of crime that is happening within the nation and also internationally. And you can see that for example, in Operation Soft Gold, we seized about 243 shawls and 8 shipments. Operation Clean Out, you can see that 43 accused were caught in just a period of about 2 months. Thunderball again saw in a period of only 1 month, 44 cases were registered and 87 accused. Less Now is related to lesser known species. Again, that was from 1st of September to 30th September across the country. Various enforcement agencies putting in their effort saw 28 cases registered, 54 accused arrested. Similar operations are going on. We conceived them in the beginning of the year, work with the various enforcement agencies, species specific, so that we can target poachers and also seize in a particular month the specific species that we are targeting. We also work based on the information that we gather, the cases that we register, the interrogation reports that we get from time to time, the data bank we have, we send our advisees across to the enforcement agencies. Similarly, we also, you can see, work with Interpol. We come out with red corner notice that this is our fugitive who has left our shores please send out a red alert across the world that wherever he's seen, we may be informed so that we can get him back to our judicial system to be tried. Similarly, purple notice you can see here is we come out with a modus operandi. Let us say we come to know about the rhino poaching. This is happening in this method. This is the methodology. These are the poachers who are indulging. These are the routes that are being followed. Or these are the changes in the modus operandi. We inform the Interpol, who then inform the whole international community that this is the sort of poaching that is happening regarding rhino horn. Please supplement your efforts across the world to protect this species. So some of the challenges that are before us, we can see the challenges are we need to reduce dependency on natural resources with alternate sources of livelihood. We need to coordinate, which is very, very important. We need to coordinate at the root point. We need to coordinate at the place where the poaching is happening with all the agencies, the custom officer there, the police officer there, the forest officer there, maybe if there's an enforcement directorate officer, the railway network which can be at that lower level, right through your districts to your state, and finally to across your nations. So you need to have networks of information dissemination. We need to improve upon our investigative skills. We need to improve upon our intelligence skills, our intelligence network. Our wildlife forensics, again, another area, probably not only in our nation, but across nations. The wildlife forensics is greatly wanting as so that it can help in improving our conviction rate. We need to have more and more modern technology so that our conviction rate improves. We need to create awareness of wildlife and forest laws. And of course, it is high time we start monitoring our online wildlife sale as well as the dark and the deep web. Some of our programs, for your information, as you can see, we take up training programs for the forest and the police officers. In the year 1920, it was roughly more than 1,000 people we trained. Similarly, we try to create awareness among all these Panchayati Raj institutions, which you can again see, we have been trying about 2,000 roughly in a year. We try to reach out to them. We also have a sensitization for the various enforcement agencies. You can talk of the Coast Guards, your railway networks, you can talk of your airway networks, you can talk of your border guarding forces. We try to reach out to them to sensitize them about the crime. You can see 2019-20, we had reached out to sensitize roughly about 7,632 people. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation. My presentation. I'd just like to say, at the end of the day, that coordination is the work, awareness is what we need to do, and all enforcement agencies need to put in their hearts and the minds to stop this crime from happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an elaborative and beautiful presentation on how to combat wildlife crime. Madam, a question to you is how challenging is online trade and how challenging is how does Wildlife Crime Control Bureau handle this online trading cases and combat this?
So I would say that this is an extremely challenging job from the point of view that to really bust rackets, we need to have cyber specialists. So while for other offences, if you are looking at the narcotics trade, we are looking at the arms trade, we are looking at the terrorists of the world, you have specialists in high numbers who are looking into it. But now if we look at our states, which is really taking care, who are expected to look after the crime related to wildlife. So the police and the forest agencies still need to go a lot as far as your internet or your net-based crime is concerned. So while you need to look at your close group, you also see there's a huge platform through your various nets. You can look at your Amazon, eBay, etc. So you need to have people who are doing cyber patrolling, who are looking at that. So I think there's a long way for us to go as far as this goes. I would like to put here that probably as far as WCCB is going, Wildlife Crime Control is going, we have tried to tackle this on a minor scale. I would say this because the CITES at the headquarters at Switzerland, they have appreciated our effort. singularly among so many nations. And very, very recently, I have been again informed by the Interpol that they have, rather it is in writing that they have appreciated the wildnet operations that we are doing every year. Last 3 years, we are particularly keeping dedicated 1 month or 2 months to try and reach out to the stakeholders, try to do cyber patrolling. But still, I would say that this is at a very, very minuscule level. We need to do a lot on this front. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for clarifying this. And moving on, with the last presentation, the world is currently grappling with COVID-19 virus and its devastating effect on both the lives of people as well as on the global economy. Although the exact reason for COVID-19 is not known, however, wildlife trade and wildlife consumption is suspected to be a very key factor in the spread of the virus. Elaborating more on this, Dr. Saket Badola, the traffic head of India, a very dynamic and vibrant persona, speaks on pandemics and the wildlife trade. Over to you, Dr. Badola.
Thank you, Pragya, for this introduction, and thanks to MOEF for this invitation. And I would also like to thank the speakers who have spoken before me for their very informative presentations. I will share my screen with sincere apologies that I am starting my presentation with probably the most scariest image that humankind has ever seen, and which is the SARS-CoV-2 or coronavirus. This is the electrogram of coronavirus. One of the tiniest particle, one of the tiniest pathogen, which infect animals and humans. The size is hardly 100 nanometer, and if you talk about weight, it is 0.85 attograms, which means that if we weigh the entire coronavirus which is circulating, which has crippled humankind, and we weigh that, it would be less than 2 grams. So we can just imagine that just 2 grams of this coronavirus has brought humanities on its knees. So this is how I would say harmful or how problematic these things can become. There are many uncertainties around coronavirus or COVID-19. But few things which are certain or more or less certain are that it has originated from a market where wildlife, several species of wildlife, live, dead, were being traded. First thing. And second, more certain thing is that it is a zoonotic disease. Okay. Now, just to talk about zoonotic diseases, we know these are the diseases which infect or naturally transmit between vertebrate animals and human beings, and this is the WHO definition on this. Again, I would say the good point about zoonotic disease is that they are not new. So we already know about zoonotic diseases. In fact, they have survived on this planet since humanity has survived. As far as 60% of non-known human pathogens are believed to be zoonotic in nature. There was a study which was conducted, and they found that out of 1407 pathogens or group of pathogens, human pathogens, 814 are of zoonotic in nature. It is also concerning that 75% of new and emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic in nature. And more concerning for us who are dealing with wildlife crime, wildlife per se, and also combating illegal wildlife trade, out of these new and emerging infectious diseases, 70% are of wildlife origin. Okay. Now, nature has defined everything very well. You can see in the graphics which is shown here that we have nature-dominated system in which wildlife live, and we have a human-dominated system in which human, wild, and livestock they live. And then there are peri-domestic species which keep on going from the nature-based nature-dominated system to human-dominated system, and then there is regular exchange of animals, of pathogens from both the systems. So this is how nature has created, or things are. But what nature has done is that there are clear-cut demarcations. Okay, that wild animals have evolved with these pathogens and hence are tolerant towards these. Okay, for example, we take example of bats. We know that bats are reservoir of many pathogens which can be harmful for human beings. But then it is a system which has naturally originated. These wild animals have evolved in such a way that they are very tolerant about this, but humans are not tolerant. But then this is not under our control. And second thing is, which we should understand, is that these pathogens, they mutate naturally, and they keep on changing their I would say keep on changing themselves, and then they also have a tendency to jump the species barrier if provided with suitable conditions. As I said, that these things are not our control because they are part of nature system. Now, what is under our control is, because these pathogens, they don't just come from one I would say system to another system, but they need a shared platform or a interface, which can be direct contact or a close interface, to make this species jump. That is, jumping from one species to another species. It can be direct from one reservoir host to human beings, or it can be through intermediate host. For example, this infographic shows the coronavirus. It has mainly two hosts, bats and rodents, and how different intermediate hosts are used to spread off these coronaviruses into human beings. Okay, now jury is still out whether this virus came from pangolin or some other species acted as intermediate host. It is not certain so far, but we know that it has jumped from animals to human beings. Okay. Now, another, I would say, thing which is under our control is these pathogens rarely come to us. When I say so, I mean that either we go to them, which is in the form of encroachments or change in land use, like we have seen in cases of Nipah virus, where land use change and agriculture practices change from agriculture practices to piggery, cause this Nipah virus spread, or Zika virus or Ebola, and very close to home, which is KFD disease, which is Casanur forest disease, which originated in forests of southern India, and then it became a zoonotic disease. Still, it is surviving, though at a very low level. But Casanur forest disease, which originated in southern India, is also a zoonotic disease, which is mainly because of encroachment and land use change and people or human beings entering wild forest. The second thing, the more concerning thing, is when we bring them home, and as I said, often by paying something, some price for them, which is mainly wildlife trade. So we go to these markets. If they are not properly kept, if they are not hygienic, if they are not, there are no, these protocols are not followed, quarantine protocols are not followed, there might be chances that they might be harboring such pathogens, and we pay to bring them home, like the case of SARS, MERS, and even COVID-19. And there is in Hunan seafood market in Wuhan, China, coronavirus made this species jump and came to human beings, and then we all know that what we are going through. So with this background, I would say that how I would go to how this is linked to illegal wildlife trade. As Tilotma ma'am has already mentioned in her presentation, illegal wildlife trade is the fourth largest criminal activity which is known at the global level now. It not only threatens biodiversity, it also fuels corruption. It also increases human or public health risk, as we have seen. It is estimated that more than 7,000 plant and animals are routinely traded across the world. We have a long list of species, plant species, which is more than 35,000 plant species in CITES, where their trade is regulated. So a lot of animals are being traded across the globe. And India, being 6 to 8%, being the reservoir of 6 to 8% of global diversity, has traditionally acted as a source country. Why I say traditionally? Because in recent times we have seen that India is also emerging as a demand country for few products. I'll come to those. But traditionally, India has been a source country for these products, and that is why we should be really concerned about these things. Okay. Now, what are the predisposing factors? And I'll be only talking about 2, 3 main predisposing factors, and then 2 challenges which we are facing, the emerging challenges. The first predisposing factor is consumption of wild meat. Okay. And now, wild meat consumption can be traditional, as we have seen in few areas of the country, and mainly because to fulfill the need of animal protein, and it can be a luxury item also. Okay. Now, in India, due to a strong Wildlife Protection Act, we have seen that luxury consumption is not to that extent as it is in several Southeast Asian countries, East Asian countries, and several other parts of the globe. Africa and all. But we do have a small component of traditional meat consumption, where people or where few traditionally this meat is being consumed for various purposes. Now we also have more than 400 markets. Now these are not, I would not tell them they are wildlife markets, but they are markets which double into a wildlife market. So these are meat markets. These are bird markets where even wildlife, wild animals or wild meat is also being sold. So we have a number of these markets. And generally in these markets, what we have seen is the conditions are very unsafe upkeep, and also transportation is also unsafe. Now these all things predisposes the jumping of, I would say, species jump of one pathogen into human beings. Then we do have very good quarantine protocols, but there is sometimes we see that there is laxity in following these quarantine protocols, and then hygienic condition in several of these wildlife markets are not up to mark. Now, there are two clear-cut distinctions when it comes to India, because the Wildlife Protection Act generally bans trade or selling of all wild animal meat. So that is there. But in several parts of the globe, we know that wild meat are also being consumed legally. But then these things needs to be followed if we want to have a safety for human beings also. Okay. Another predisposing factor is use of traditional medicine system. Now, several wild animals are being used for various formulations. If I take example of Southeast Asia, more than 65 species of bats are being used for food and medicine. Even feces of bats, few species of bats, are being used for making eye or for making cure for eye conditions. And this market is growing at a rate of 11 to 20%. So we need to be very careful about this. Thankfully, in India, we mainly follow Ayurveda, which is mainly dependent on plant products. So this is not here, but then there are several traditional medicine systems within India also where these products are being used. Now, more concerning for us is the occult practices or use of wildlife product for occult practices, whether it is red sand boa, whether it is owls during Diwali, whether it is hatha jodi, which is genital organ of monitor lizard, or scales of pangolin and meat of pangolin. It is being used for the various practices, and this is a major concern for us because this can be a major predisposing factor. Another problematic factor for us is, as I said, that India is also emerging to be a demand country, and which is exotic pet trade. Now we know that several species of exotic animals are being imported into India. Okay, this photograph is recently 2 months back, approximately. There was one seizure which was done in which one kangaroo was coming into India from Myanmar border, and along with the kangaroo, there were exotic birds from South America. There were turtles from Africa. So you can very well imagine that how these products are coming into India. The live individuals are coming, so that increases the risk of pandemics also. And these products enter illegal wildlife market. And when I say high risk sources, there might be possibilities that, because we know that there are several farms which raises these wildlife in Southeast Asian countries and East Asia. So they might be very well sourced from these farms also. But again, we know that in these farms also conditions are not proper, are not hygienic, and we don't have any traceability mechanism where we can trace them from where they are being originated. So that's why they are very high risk. And then they are covering long distances. So you can very well imagine if you feel that kangaroo is coming from Australia, so you can understand that how long distance it must have covered and what all pathogens it must have picked on the way. Even if it is coming from a farm in Southeast Asia, then also it is a long distance. And as I said, that India is emerging to be a destination market for pet animals. Okay, and now this is not just one case. We have seen several cases. There were 10 zebras which were caught in Dhaka. It was claimed that the destination was India a few years back. Then there were chimpanzees which were caught in Kathmandu. Again, it was said that destination is India. So you can very well imagine from Africa, things are coming into India, if that is right. Okay. Now, as I said, that I'll be talking briefly on two emerging challenges. One of them is expanding transport, supply chain, and financial infrastructure. We know that the globe is shrinking very fast, and India has one of the fastest expanding transport sector. In fact, our domestic airline sector is one of the fastest growing airline sector in anywhere in the globe for, I think, third or fourth year in a row. And the courier services are also increasing. So that means that they're penetrating the hinterland also. And with digital payment, things are becoming far more easier for everyone. And IWT is linked with money laundering also. The Financial Action Task Force recently brought out a report which shows this very clearly. Now we know there are a few cases where a leopard cub was coming into India, which was seized in Chennai airport. So you can imagine that leopard coming into India, what kind of risk that must be bringing. And this was very recent during lockdown time when we saw courier service was being used for transportation of red sand boa. So this is what is happening. This slide explains very well how interconnected we are. This was a study which was done by Traffic, I would say a few years back, but it very well shows that how this is just for pangolins, that how pangolins are being traded and how they are traded across the globe, and how the globe is becoming a very small world. And because of these things, because of increased movement of product, people, of transportation facilities, the risk of spread of pathogen are also increasing, as we are seeing in the case of coronavirus. Now, another challenge is increasing use of cyberspace, as ma'am has also said and Pragya also highlighted. This is again a major challenge for us, which is a new and emerging challenge for us. We know that globally, more than half of the global population is on social media. If I'm just talking about social media, and India again is one of the fastest growing market of internet. In fact, we add more than 40 million people every year to internet, and it is expected to touch the total internet subscriber are expected to touch 650 million by end of this year. Business also it is bringing, but it is also bringing I would say new opportunities for wildlife traders, smugglers. The end-to-end encrypted messenger services are being used. Web portals, chat groups, social media, e-commerce website, everything is being used for trading of illegal wildlife products. Okay, there was one study again I would briefly mention. We did a snap study of just for 40 days. We monitored 10 groups on social media, a very popular social media site, and we realized that there were more than 28,000 individual animals were on sale. When we deeper into that, then 71% of these animals are CITES listed, which is the trade is either banned or regulated. So you can very well imagine, and this was just exotic pet trade, bird trade. Then now coming towards the conclusion of this, what can be the response framework where we should work towards this, towards handling of zoonotic diseases? First thing is, I think we need to understand the risk associated with that. As I said, zoonotic diseases are as old as human beings, but probably we don't even understand the risk. Reason is very simple, because they are very low probability diseases, but they have high impact. It is just like tsunami. It happens once in several decades, but when it happens, the impact is very high. So we have to be very careful about these things, and we need to build a knowledge base around these things. We need to map the threats, whether it is related to species which are more prone to spread these diseases, the markets which are at higher risk, means the markets which are tackling too many species and live, dead, everything. So we need to map these threats. The transport hub and transit points. There are international transit points where we clearly know that a lot of animals are being exchanged from India into India and outside India. We need to map all these transit points. We need to also map the trade practices, which are high risk trade practices, and we need to identify the critical control points. Suppose something happens, how can we control or how can we limit the spread of these diseases? We need to develop some early warning systems, that so that we are alerted in advance and we can take proper action against these. And we need to design and implement systematic risk mitigation as well as response protocol. Something happens, then how should we react and how should we proceed? So we need to do this towards a pandemic resilient world. I would say we need stronger policies, laws, and protocols. We have to build enforcement capacities, and it's not just forest department, but also other agencies also, like border police, like customs, like airport securities, everything. We think we need to build a better enforcement capacities also. We need to ensure certain and timely conviction. We know that in India, as far as wildlife cases are concerned, the conviction in judicial cases are very, very low. So we need to improve. We need to take measures how we can improve this certain and timely conviction we can ensure. We need to streamline legal pet trade. Ministry has recently taken two very important steps where it has been asked that all those who possess these exotic pets mainly, they need to register, and also the sellers of these pet products, they also need to register. So these are very important in streamlining legal pet trade, because then only we can ensure that the traceability of it, and then only we can ensure quarantine and other protocols, because unless it is done, everything will be illegal or everything will be under the carpet. So we need to do this. We need to tackle cybercrime. So that is one of the most emerging problem which we are facing. As ma'am said, that WCCB is already doing wild net program project around that. Traffic has also worked internationally with several companies in a form of a coalition, that how they can get together and act to stop wildlife cybercrime. And we also did one meeting with the help of ministry and also US Embassy last year, in which several social media companies, e-commerce companies, they came together and along with enforcement agencies to tackle that, how we can tackle this. But this is a priority which has to be taken. And then we need to sanitize supply chain, which includes quarantine procedure also. Another very important thing is on the behavior change and reducing demand. We need to understand, first of all, consumer behavior. Consumers are not just a few villagers who are killing. Consumers are also high-end consumers also, who use a chateau shawl or who buy chateau shawl or who relish sea cucumbers in a hotel or five-star hotel. So I think we need to understand consumer behavior and then develop an app messaging around that, and so that we can influence consumer choices also. We have been doing some measures in this, in which we are working with Vistara Airlines and also Airport Authority of India to how this messaging can be given to the consumers or the potential consumers, that this is illegal and these are the problems which it can create. So this needs to be taken up at a broader level, at a national level, and this behavior change and reducing demand reduction needs to be taken at a really higher level. Then towards the end, we need to understand One Health in a better way. When I was doing my master's in veterinary sciences in way back in early 2000, One Health was still a concept at that time. Not much has moved, but we need to understand that if we want a better public health also, then also human health, animal health, and role of environment needs to come together. Then only we can ensure a better security for public health. As I've written here, to get best return on investment on human health, we need to invest our political and financial capital wisely on ensuring environmental health. Unless that is done, we won't be able to survive. So that is, and for that, it is an integrated approach would be required. So ultimately, towards at the end, I would just say that we need to repair the fractured relationship with nature, which we have done, and which has been clearly highlighted by the spread of coronavirus. We need to promote cooperation and build collaboration. No one can, like One Health has shown, no one can do it on their own. We need to come together. There should be a multi-agency, multidisciplinary approach to dealing with this. That is there. And then India needs to play a prominent role at the regional and the global level, because we should understand that we have one of the highest population of human beings. We also have one of the best biodiversity. We are a mega biodiverse country, and we also have the highest population of livestock in the country. So we have everything in here. So we need to work, because our stakes are the highest across the globe. So we need to take more prominent role, regional at the global level, and I'm sure MOEF will do that. And this is a thank you slide. As Einstein had said, we cannot solve problems using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them. So that means that we need to have a new set of ideas, new set of understanding if we want to deal this kind of problem. And that is all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for elaborating on the role of wildlife trade in the pandemics that has been happening these days. Sir, I have a question for you. How does Traffic India liaise with government and intergovernment agencies to build a vigilant network to combat wildlife trade?
As I said that there are several, I would say, aspects of dealing with illegal wildlife trade. One of them, a prominent aspect, is building capacities. Building capacities not just of forest department but for other organizations also. So Traffic India works on capacity building of this. Second is spreading of awareness. So as I said, no enforcement agencies or no one can ensure any law or execution of any law unless we have support from communities or from the citizens of the country. So we also do a very prominent awareness generation campaign in which we tell people that why conserving wildlife is important and why illegal wildlife trade needs to be controlled. Then we also have a strong prominent component of research and analysis of various wildlife trade related issues. Being an international network, the advantage is that we can also do a kind of early warning system kind of thing, because we at international level we analyze these things what are happening in different parts of the globe and how a global strategy can help in this. And another thing, the last thing I would say, that we also work with several international organizations um, or conventions like CITES, like CBT, to have a better profile of combating illegal wildlife trade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would open the session to the other participants who would have questions for the speakers. If any of the participants are interested in asking questions to our esteemed speakers, you may please go ahead and ask the questions.
Hello. Hello. Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
I am
Please. Yes, sir.
retired Professor Satyanarayana from Wildlife Department, AVC College, and it's a very good presentation. Now, I would like to ask Saket that why do you want to have a licensed pet trade in India? Because we are a lot of confusions. See, we have a Indian Wildlife Protection. As for the Act, we cannot trade our species. In that case, why do you want to export the foreign species in the name of pet trade? This is again encourages the illegal trade. What is your opinion in this regard?
Thank Dr. Satyanarayana. The issue with exotic pet trade is, you know that our Wildlife Protection Act very comprehensively covers all the species which are found in India. But it doesn't, right now it doesn't, although there is an which is being proposed, and hopefully it will bring CITES also into this. So right now what we have is CITES is not integrated into that. So now the mix of this is that if there are some CITES listed species which are banned or for trade or regulated for trade, they can easily be, or there is no mechanism how we can control their trade into India once they cross our borders. At the border, customs rules do apply, but once they are inside, there are several mechanisms where we know that they are brought in illegally, and then we can't do much around these things because we don't know. So that is one thing, first thing. Second, more important thing is that if we do a licensing, or if we kind of regulate this trade, then we can also impose other things like quarantine facilities. We can ensure that. We can also have a traceability mechanism built into that, so that we know that from where it is originating and how it is progressing. So these things can only be brought when we know that something is legal. And it will also give, I would say, it will also give a good for those who are legally trading this or who are legally breeding these species. So just to identify between illegal trade and legal trade, I think this is a very important step which ministry has taken, and I'm really hopeful that it will bring some really good changes as far as wildlife crime prevention scenario in the country is concerned. Thank you.
And one more thing is regarding the laws. You are mentioning about that law should be improved. I think in Indian acts are very good. We have a very good laws already there, and I think these laws are not sufficient. We want to have amendments already. I think we have laws, but we are not following it. So we are the best lawmakers. At the same time, we are the lawbreakers. That's what my feeling that. So still we have the laws. If you follow that laws itself existing, I think that is really good. So
Dr. Satyanarayana, completely agree with you. I think India's Wildlife Protection Act is one of the best act ever enacted in wildlife scenario, and other countries are also following this. Other neighboring countries are also following this. Yes, there is always a gap between law and its enforcement. That's why we need to ensure that the enforcement can be made even stronger, and that's what we all are planning. We are all are working towards that. Thank you.
very much.
Any other participants has questions for our speakers? Okay, so we come to the end of our webinar here today. As we all know that human-wildlife conflict is a serious issue and the state forest departments incur huge amount of expenses on payment of ex gratia to the people who lose their lives and compensation for the loss of crops and the property of the people. We appreciate the steps taken by the state forest departments in addressing the human-elephant conflicts in their respective states. I am in particularly thanking the Uttar Pradesh Forest Department and the West Bengal Forest Department who have given this such a wonderful presentation on highlighting the conflict issues in their states and the proactive steps they are taking to address the issue. Wildlife trade is equally a challenging task, and I'm extremely thankful to Wildlife Crime Control Bureau as well as Traffic India to have highlighted on the issues on how the wildlife trade occurs both within the country as well as across the boundaries, and the steps taken by both the agencies to combat wildlife trade in our country. I thank all our 4 speakers, the participants who have joined us through webinar, people who are watching us on YouTube, and all the other people in the ministry who have taken the pain in conducting the webinars throughout this week and making it a success. Thank you one and all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Prakash.
खत्म हमारा ये बोल है